Ethan had never thought he would end up here, standing on an uncharted planet in the middle of nowhere. It was supposed to be a routine mission. He was part of a crew that explored new planets, cataloged resources, and made first contact with alien species. But this planet was different, unlike any other he had visited. It wasn't marked on any maps, and it wasn't on any schedule. The galaxy was vast, and this world was tucked away in the dark, far beyond the reach of any civilization Ethan knew. The journey to this planet had been quiet, peaceful even. The stars outside the ship's window looked peaceful, and the silence of space was calming. But now, as Ethan stepped out onto the strange world, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The air was thick and smelled of something unfamiliar, like wet earth mixed with something sweeter, almost floral. The sky was dark with a hint of purple, and the ground beneath his boots was soft and spongy, like moss or some kind of plant material. His team had stayed behind on the ship, unsure of what to expect. Ethan had volunteered to explore, hoping to discover something important. As he moved deeper into the forest, the trees towered above him, their branches twisting and reaching out like arms. The leaves were a glowing shade of green, and there was a soft hum in the air that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The sound was soothing but eerie, as if the planet itself was alive, watching him. Ethan walked on, his steps careful but steady. His breath came in short bursts as he tried to make sense of the strange landscape around him. The deeper he ventured, the more he felt an overwhelming sensation that he wasn't alone. There was a presence, something watching him from the shadows of the thick trees. He wasn't sure why, but he didn't feel scared. There was an odd sense of calm, as though he were meant to be here. And then he saw her. She stood at the edge of a small clearing, barely visible at first. Her figure was tall and graceful, almost ethereal. She had dark skin, her features sharp and beautiful, and her hair seemed to move with the breeze as if it had a life of its own. But it was her eyes that caught his attention. They were glowing faintly, an unnatural, almost otherworldly shade of blue. They looked right into his, locking on with an intensity that took his breath away. For a moment, neither of them moved. Ethan couldn't tell if she was waiting for him to approach or if she was simply observing him. He felt a strange pull, a magnetic force drawing him closer to her, even though every instinct in his body told him to be cautious. But curiosity overwhelmed him, and he found himself walking forward, his feet moving of their own accord. When he was close enough, he stopped. She hadn't moved an inch, but now he could see her more clearly. She was dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, a shimmering fabric that seemed to change color depending on how the light hit it. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, more advanced than anything he could imagine, and yet it didn't look out of place on her. She looked ancient, yet timeless, as if she had been here for as long as the planet itself. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice surprisingly steady despite the surreal nature of the encounter. The woman didn't speak right away. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if considering his question. Her gaze never left his, and Ethan felt as though she was peering into his very soul. She studied him, her eyes scanning him with a strange depth, as though she was looking for something specific. "I am called Ariara," she finally said, her voice soft but clear. It had a melodic quality, like a song he couldn't quite understand but somehow felt compelled to listen to. "And you are human," Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm Ethan, my crew is." Ariara raised a hand and the gentle wind around them seemed to hush. "You are alone now," she said, her eyes still locked on his. "For a reason." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. There was something about her, something about the way she spoke, that sent a shiver down his spine. It was as if she knew more about him than she was letting on. More than just his name. "Why am I here?" Ethan asked, his voice quieter now. Ariara stepped forward, her movements smooth and fluid like a dancer. She seemed to glide across the ground, her feet barely making a sound. When she reached him, she stopped and placed her hand gently on his arm. Her touch was warm, almost like sunlight, and it filled him with a strange sense of peace. "There is much you do not understand," she said softly, her gaze still intense. "But you are here because you are meant to be. Humans have always been. Different," Ethan blinked. "Different. Not weaker," Ariara continued, her voice growing more serious, "but different. Your kind has a potential the galaxy has not yet seen. And for that you have always been underestimated, but not for long." Ethan was confused. "What do you mean? What potential?" Ariara's lips curved into a faint smile, as if she were amused by his question. "You will understand in time. But for now you are here because of what you are. Humanity is special." Before Ethan could ask anything more, Ariara turned and walked toward a structure that appeared to be made of the same strange material as her clothes. It shimmered, glowing faintly in the dark. It was a small building, but it radiated a sense of power. The walls seemed to hum softly, as if alive with energy. Ariara turned to him, her eyes still glowing in the darkness. "Come inside." Ethan hesitated for only a moment. His mind was racing, but his feet moved before he could even think. There was no reason not to trust her, and somehow he felt safe. The overwhelming curiosity and the pull toward her were too strong to resist. Without another word, he followed her inside. The door, if it could even be called that, slid open with a soft sound, and he stepped into the unknown. The interior of the building was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It was spacious, with walls that seemed to pulse with light. The air inside felt fresh and clean, but there was an odd scent, like a mixture of flowers and something metallic. The entire room seemed to be alive, glowing softly in the dark. Ariara led him to the center of the room, where a circular platform stood. It was made of the same material as the building, and it seemed to vibrate slightly. She motioned for him to stand on it. "This is where you will begin to understand," she said, her voice soft but firm. Ethan stepped onto the platform, feeling a strange tingle run up his legs as he did. The moment his feet made contact with it, a wave of energy seemed to pass through him, almost like a jolt of electricity. It wasn't painful, but it was powerful. His vision blurred for a second, and when it cleared, he found himself standing in a different place entirely. It was still the same room, but now it looked different. The walls were filled with symbols and patterns that seemed to shift and change before his eyes. The air felt different too, as if it were charged with something he couldn't explain. Ariara was standing next to him, watching him carefully. "This is the beginning," she said. "The potential you carry is much more than you know, and now you will begin to see it." Ethan was stunned. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. His life was about to change forever. Ethan's mind raced as he stood on the strange platform inside the alien structure. The sudden burst of energy that had surged through him left his body tingling, and his head spun as if he had just woken from a dream. The air was thick with something indescribable, as if the space itself was alive, breathing with an energy that pulsed in sync with his heartbeat. His senses felt heightened, his thoughts sharper, and his body felt stronger, like he was standing on the edge of a revelation he didn't yet understand. Ariara stood next to him, watching him intently, her eyes glowing softly in the dimly lit room. There was no fear or hesitation in her gaze. Instead, there was a quiet confidence, as if she knew exactly what was happening. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His mind was still processing what had just happened, and the air between them felt charged, filled with unspoken truths. "Do you feel it?" Ariara asked, her voice calm and soothing. "The change within you." Ethan nodded slowly, still trying to catch his breath. "What was that?" "What just happened?" Ariara's lips curved into a faint smile, and she placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "It is the beginning of your understanding. You have tapped into something that humans have forgotten about for a long time. The energy, the potential that flows through every living being. It is the force that connects the universe, and now you are beginning to understand it. Ethan tried to comprehend her words, but they didn't fully make sense. His mind was still processing the sensation he had felt when he stepped onto the platform, but his thoughts were scattered. Like fragments of a puzzle he couldn't quite piece together. The room around him seemed to shift slightly, the glowing symbols on the walls flickering and changing, as though they were alive, reacting to his presence. "This power," Ariara continued, her voice soft but filled with a quiet authority, "it is not something you can control right away. But over time, with guidance, you will learn to harness it. It is the energy that flows through all things. The energy that gives life, that binds the galaxy together." Ethan turned to her, trying to make sense of her words. "You said humans are different. What do you mean?" "We're just regular people. We don't have anything special." Ariara's eyes softened, and she stepped closer to him, her presence calming, as if she could read the confusion and doubt that filled his mind. "Humans are unlike any species I have encountered. While others rely on their strength or intelligence, humans have something more, something deeper. It is your spirit, your ability to adapt, to survive, and to thrive even in the most difficult of circumstances. You have an untapped potential within you that no one else possesses." Ethan listened to her words, his mind still reeling. He didn't understand. How could humanity be special in a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, powerful species, and ancient knowledge? He had always seen humanity as just another young species trying to find its place in the universe. There was nothing remarkable about them, nothing that stood out in the vast expanse of space. Yet as Ariara spoke, he began to feel something shift within him, something that made him question everything he had ever believed about humanity. "You will learn," Ariara said, her voice full of certainty. "You will learn to see what others cannot. To unlock the true potential that lies within you. The power that flows through your kind is far greater than you realize, and it is that power that will change the course of the galaxy." The words felt heavy in the air, like a promise wrapped in mystery. Ethan wanted to argue, to ask more questions, but he found himself unable to speak. There was something about Ariara that made him feel small and insignificant, yet at the same time, there was a strange sense of awe. She had seen things, experienced things, that he couldn't even begin to imagine. She wasn't like the aliens they had encountered before. She was different. She was ancient, wise, and somehow beyond anything he had ever known. "What do you want from me?" Ethan finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ariara's eyes softened and she took a step back, as though considering his question carefully. "I do not want anything from you, Ethan. I am here to show you what you are capable of, to help you see the power that is waiting inside of you. But you must choose to accept it. You must choose to embrace the change, to become something more than what you are now." Ethan's mind raced with questions, but before he could ask another one, the room around them seemed to shift again. The symbols on the walls flickered and changed, their light growing brighter. A hum filled the air, and the ground beneath Ethan's feet seemed to vibrate. He felt a surge of energy, not unlike the one he had experienced when he stepped onto the platform, but this time it was different. It was stronger, more intense, as if something deep inside him was waking up. Ariara reached out and gently placed her hand on his chest. "This is the first step, the awakening. The power is within you, Ethan. You only need to unlock it." Ethan could feel the warmth of her touch, the energy that seemed to flow from her into him. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before, an energy that was both foreign and familiar at the same time. It was as if the very essence of the universe was flowing through him, connecting him to something greater than himself. His chest tightened, and his heart raced as the energy surged within him, filling every fiber of his being with a strange, overwhelming power. The symbols on the walls shifted again, faster this time, and the hum in the air grew louder. Ethan felt his body tremble, not with fear, but with something else, something he couldn't quite describe. The energy was growing stronger, and he could feel it pushing against the walls of his mind, urging him to release it, to let it flow freely. But at the same time, there was a part of him that was scared. Scared of what would happen if he let go, scared of what this power could mean. "What's happening?" Ethan gasped, his voice shaking. Ariara's voice was calm, reassuring. "You are awakening the power within you, Ethan. The power that lies dormant in every human. It is your gift, your strength, and it is the key to humanity's future. But you must be careful. Once you unlock this power, there is no turning back." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words sink in. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he could feel the change inside him. It was like a storm building, a force he couldn't control, but one that was undeniable. He could sense the potential within him, the power that Ariara had spoken of, and for the first time he realized she was right. Humanity was different. Maybe not in the way he had always thought, but in a way that no one else in the galaxy could understand. The energy within him surged again, and this time Ethan let it flow. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. And whatever came next, he was ready for it. Ethan stood in the center of the glowing room, feeling the overwhelming surge of energy coursing through his body. His chest rose and fell with each breath, his heart beating faster than usual, as if it were in sync with the vibrations of the room itself. The light around him seemed to pulse, the symbols on the walls swirling and shifting like an ancient language only he could now begin to understand. It was as if he was standing at the edge of something monumental, something beyond his comprehension. Ariara stood beside him, her calm demeanor offering him a sense of stability in the chaos of his mind. She was watching him closely, her eyes glowing softly, knowing full well the battle taking place within him. The power that was awakening inside him was not something to be taken lightly. It was the beginning of something far greater than he could have imagined. "You're doing well," Ariara said, her voice soothing, like the calm in the eye of a storm. "You've begun to tap into the energy, but there is much more to learn." Ethan's mind was spinning. He had never felt anything like this before. The energy inside him wasn't just a physical sensation, it was mental, spiritual. It was as if the very fabric of the universe was reaching out to him, connecting him to everything around him. He could feel the stars, the planets, the very air vibrating with energy. It was intoxicating, but also overwhelming. He wanted to control it, to make sense of it, but it felt like trying to hold on to water slipping through his fingers. "I don't understand," Ethan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "How is this possible? How is any of this happening?" Ariara smiled gently, her eyes full of understanding. "You are unlocking what has always been within you, Ethan. Humans have forgotten their connection to the energy of the universe, but it has always been there, waiting. Your kind is unique in this way. While others rely on physical strength or intellect, you have something deeper, a connection to the very essence of life. It is this energy that gives humans the ability to adapt, to survive, and to thrive. It is the core of who you are." Ethan tried to process her words, but they didn't quite make sense. His mind was still struggling to catch up with the sensations he was feeling. It was like being awake in a dream, his body moving on its own while his thoughts raced to keep up. The room seemed to shift around him, and for a moment he felt like he was floating, as if the ground beneath him no longer existed. "You're not alone in this," Ariara continued, her voice grounding him. "The energy connects all living things. It flows through everything, the stars, the trees, the water, and now it flows through you. You are not just a human, you are a part of something much bigger. You are part of the galaxy itself." Ethan felt a strange sense of awe, as if he was beginning to see the universe through new eyes. The power that Ariara spoke of was not just some abstract force. It was something tangible, something real. He could feel it now, flowing through him, filling every part of him with a sense of purpose. He was part of something greater, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he truly mattered. But with that realization came fear. What did it all mean? What was he supposed to do with this power? He didn't have the answers, and the weight of it all felt like it might crush him. He had always thought of himself as just an ordinary person, nothing special. But now he was being told that he was part of something far greater than he could ever imagine. And with that came a responsibility he wasn't sure he was ready for. "I don't know if I can handle this," Ethan said, his voice trembling slightly. "This power, it feels like too much. I'm not ready for this." Ariara's gaze softened, and she placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm and comforting. "You don't need to be ready. This power has always been inside you, Ethan. You don't need to control it all at once. Just let it guide you, trust in it. The more you trust, the more you will understand." "But what if I fail?" Ethan asked, fear creeping into his voice. "What if I can't control it?" "Failure is part of the journey," Ariara replied, her voice calm but firm. "You are not alone in this, and you will learn. We all learn. The power you are awakening is not about perfection. It is about understanding, adapting, and growing. It is about becoming the person you are meant to be." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of thoughts that were swirling in his mind. He didn't know if he could live up to the expectations that seemed to weigh on him now. But at the same time, a part of him felt a spark of hope. Maybe this was his chance to do something more than he had ever imagined. Maybe this was the reason he had been chosen to come to this planet, to meet Ariara, to awaken the power inside him. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time he felt like he had a purpose. "Do you want to see more?" Ariara asked, her voice gentle, as though offering him a choice. Ethan nodded slowly. He didn't know what more meant, but he knew he couldn't turn back now. "Yes," he said, his voice more confident than he felt. "Show me." Ariara smiled, her eyes filled with approval. She raised her hand, and the symbols on the walls shifted once again, moving faster this time. The energy in the room grew stronger, more intense. Ethan felt the surge of power building inside him, and this time he didn't fight it. He let it flow, letting the energy fill him, guiding him. The room seemed to dissolve around him, and suddenly, Ethan was no longer standing in the alien structure. He was standing on the surface of a distant planet, the sky above him filled with swirling clouds and stars. The air was thick with energy, and the ground beneath his feet hummed with life. The landscape was alien, yet strangely familiar, as though it were a dream he had once had but forgotten. "This is the power of connection," Ariara's voice echoed in his mind. "This is what you are awakening. You are connected to the galaxy, to all living things. Feel it." Ethan closed his eyes, letting the energy wash over him. He felt it then, the deep connection to everything around him. He could feel the pulse of the planet beneath his feet, the rhythm of the stars above. He could sense the creatures that lived on this world, the plants, the very soil that made it whole. It was as if he could feel the heartbeat of the universe itself, and in that moment he knew he was a part of it. The vision shifted again, and he was standing in the heart of a bustling city, a place filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. The air was alive with the sounds of conversation, the hum of technology, the pulse of life. He could sense the people around him, feel their thoughts and emotions, their hopes and fears. It was overwhelming, but it was beautiful. He could see the connections between them all, the ways they interacted, the ways they helped each other. It was a harmony that stretched across space and time. "This is the future of humanity," Ariara's voice whispered in his mind. "This is what you can bring to the galaxy. Unity, understanding, compassion. You are capable of more than you know." Ethan opened his eyes, the vision fading as quickly as it had come. He was back in the alien structure, standing next to Ariara. The energy inside him was still flowing, but now it felt different. It didn't feel like something to be feared. It felt like something to be embraced, something that could guide him. "I understand," Ethan said, his voice stronger now, filled with a new sense of purpose. "I understand what I have to do." Ariara smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "You have taken the first step, Ethan. Now the journey truly begins." Ethan looked up at her, a sense of determination settling in his chest. He didn't know where this journey would take him, but he knew one thing for certain: he was ready. The power inside him was not a burden, it was a gift. And with it, he would help lead humanity into the future.